shout. Don't need nobody to bail me out. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Let's give God a hand clap of praise. I'm going to bring up some of the people who have sacrificed their freedom and their time and their reputation, their position, and who went to jail. Yeah, y'all got a few jailbirds in there. And you cannot believe they got the nerve to sit up here in the pulpit. They said it wasn't up with crooks in the pulpit. I didn't believe it. But I'm telling you, they're going to come telling you. They're going to come tell you about this stuff. They've been to jail. But it's for a good cause. And we're going to have these ministers to come up and testify and bear witness to what they did yesterday and what they've done before in terms of going up to Raleigh to be a part of the moral movement. And the first person we're going to have is Dr. Rodney Sadler. And that's because I think he's the oldest one up here. And he went 3 weeks ago. So his trip to jail was old, but it was fresh for him. You know. Okay, well, we'll go ahead on since Rodney, he did that on purpose. He knew I was going to call him. We're going to call a fresh new crook, new jailbird. He is one of the pastors and one of the leading ministers of the Unitarian Church of Charlotte. A very wonderful, wonderful, nice, loving man, Minister J. Leach.
I have to start with an apology. We think we are warm people in Charlotte, right? We're welcoming, we're friendly. Well, I went up to Raleigh yesterday and I ran into some people at the Wake County Detention Center. And they were so warm and friendly. They invited me in and they let me stay all night long. They just let me stay on and on. They were just so hospitable that we got back into town in the rush hour traffic coming back in this morning. So I apologize. I've been up all night. I want to thank my friends in Raleigh for their warmth and their hospitality. Growing up as a young child in the Edwards Road Baptist Church in Greenville, South Carolina, some wonderful women taught me to sing a simple song with a profound message. It went like this: Jesus loves the little children.
Yes, he does. That's right.
Anybody ever heard this?
Yeah.
All the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in His sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. My religious perspective has evolved rather dramatically from the faith of my childhood and adolescence. But I've tried to carry the best of my Baptist background forward into my life as a Unitarian Universalist minister. I've never found it necessary to question or contradict the words those faith-filled women sang into my soul. Which is to say, I still believe the grand overarching umbrella of love is big enough to cover all the children. Not just some children, but all the children. I went back to Raleigh yesterday because I believe that. I participated again in Moral Monday because I believe we are called not to dole out little parsimonious portions of love, not to hoard, hug, and hang on to love, not to create barriers and regulations and legislation limiting love, but to stretch the boundaries of love wider and wider until all God's children, black children and white children, Latino children and Asian children, rich children and poor children, straight children and gay children, immigrant children, and our own children's children. All children know that they are loved. I went back to Raleigh to join with hundreds and hundreds to say, we don't love children by crippling public education. We don't love all children by hampering public health. We don't love all children by throwing up barrier after barrier before their parents, making life harder for those for whom life is too hard already. I went back to Raleigh yesterday to walk boldly with brothers and sisters, declaring loudly and quite clearly to this General Assembly and to this governor, we are not now living in the shackling shame of Southern slavery of 1813. We are not now living in the chivalristic cruelty of Jim Crow of 1913. And we are not now living in the shameful injury of separate and unequal of 1953. That's right. It is 2013. It is 2013. And it is time. It's past time. It's way past time for the attack on voter rights to slink back into the slime of those bygone, shame-filled days. Listen, I want to let you in on a little secret. We are not naive or ignorant. When this legislature wants to limit early voting, we know who votes early in greater proportion. When this legislature wants to eliminate Sunday voting, we know who votes early on Sunday in greater proportions. When this legislature wants to put in the poll tax of a voter ID, solving who knows what problem. Since they themselves have admitted we have no problem with fraud, we know who will be hurt the most. Keeping African Americans away from the polls. My goodness. Those women taught me better than that as a little Baptist boy. All right. Keeping African Americans away from the polls is not the way we love all God's children. I went back to Raleigh yesterday. I went to that rally. I marched into the halls of our legislature. I sang and I prayed, and according to the way they say it is, I overstayed my welcome. In my own house. So they escorted me out of there with my hands shackled behind my back. They fiddled around, shuffling their little papers for hour after hour, until fully 11 hours later, they allowed me to go free, but with the demand that I come back for a court date. Well, my dear friends in Raleigh, don't you worry. I'll be back. I'll be back long before my appointment with the powers that be. In fact, I'll be back next Monday with hundreds and hundreds of other clergy declaring that for all that divides us in our widely varying faiths, we don't have any disagreement on loving children. I stood out on that mall late yesterday afternoon with my beloved partner and my little 6-year-old daughter. Now, I know what you're thinking. She thinks I'm her grandfather, too. That's a whole other story. As the time grew near for me to enter the halls of the legislature and engage in civil disobedience, my daughter grew very quiet, and a frown fell down over her beautiful face. "What's wrong, darling?" I inquired. "I'm worried," she told me. "You worried about me? About what might happen if I get arrested?" Tears flowed down her face. "Yes," she said through her sobs. "Don't you worry about me. I'm with good friends here." And Reverend Barber said everything's gonna be okay. But you know what? That was only partially true. You see, the truth is, I'm worried too. I'm worried. And you? Are you worried?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Are you worried?
Yes, sir.
Are you worried?
Yes.
Are you troubled in your spirit?
Yes. Yep.
Does it make a frown fill your beautiful faces? Well, come on then. March with us.
Yes, yes.
Sing with us.
Yes.
Pray with us.
Yes.
Shout with us. Against all those who might wish otherwise.
All right.
We're going forward.
That's it.
We're going forward together. Not one step back.
All right, let's give them a big round of applause. I'm going to have to take the privilege here now. I forgot I was dealing with preachers. I forgot. I let my mind slip. I forgot I was dealing with preachers. We're running out of time. So I'm going to ask the rest of my guests, please limit yourself to 3 minutes or less. I'm going to have to come up here and stand beside you. So 3 minutes or less for the rest of these people that's coming up. Please, please. I bring to the podium at this time a very renowned young lady, a very strong, powerful young lady. She started her own church. She is Bishop Tonyia Rawls. Let's give her a round of applause.
Amen. I see that happening. You ain't put your finger in front of nobody else's face.
I didn't know them jokers were going to go that long. I got 3 more. I'm going to do it.
Everybody got to get the 3 fingers now. I want to thank God so much for this opportunity to be here. I was reflecting, and I also want to thank God for the shepherd of this house. I can't think of a time when we've had a major issue when the doors of this house have not been open. And I want to say that it's not only open when it's easy to open them, but I've seen it open when it was difficult to open. When there were high prices paid to open the doors. So I want to thank God so much for the head of this house. I want to thank God for Reverend Dr. Barber and his incredible leadership as he goes to the NAACP. I'm not going to be before you long. I was reflecting, and it was a long night of hospitality. And I was moved on several levels. Someone had asked me a question, a woman I was shackled together with, because at one point we went from the restraints to actual kind of shackles on our arms when they were taking us from one location to another. And so she had asked me this question, and she said, well, what was it that made this moment the moment you chose to come forward? Right. And it was an interesting question because, you know, sometimes a person can ask a question that provokes thought that you really thought you knew until you sit in the fullness of it. Yeah. And what I owned was, because it's my turn. Amen, somebody. It's my turn. I'm of an age where I didn't have classmates have to get drafted in the Vietnam War. I'm of an age where I don't know what a black and white fountain looks like. I've never seen that. pictures and historical context. I don't know what it looks like to not feel safe when I go into certain areas, particularly as I am now in the South. I don't know what it is even like not to be able to stand in a pulpit, me as a woman to be here. The only reason I am able to live the life I live today is because somebody had to pay a price. Before I got here, somebody had to stand and say, enough is enough. Somebody had to fight so that me, a little black girl born in North New Jersey to a single parent with 4 children, could wind up matriculating from Duke University. Amen, somebody. Somebody had to come and be able to say, enough is enough when thinking about poor folk. Enough is enough when thinking about the numbers of our people who had been incarcerated, and even going back further. Somebody had to stand that black folk could be free. I thought about Jarena Lee, who was one of the first female preachers in the AME church. And Jarena Lee said, listen, nobody said I could preach, but the Lord put this thing on my heart, and she went into the woods and would preach to the rocks. Come on, somebody. And because Jarena Lee preached to the rocks, I can now stand here with my brothers and with my sisters and preach unapologetically the good news of Jesus Christ. So it was my turn to say, not on my watch. It was my turn to say all children in North Carolina have a right to Medicaid and all the other resources that help their families. Every child in North Carolina has a right to quality education. Because if you think not getting a good education isn't something that robs life, you do not understand the American system. So when we say no to early childhood education, we are saying yes to incarceration. When we say no to the things that would help our children be able to go to college and not just attend any college they want, but also to be able to exercise their rights of citizenry and vote on those campuses where they should be learning how to live, then you are not understanding the system we live in and the prices that are at stake. I'm here because it's my turn. It is my turn, and I'm going to close with this. I also am someone who is standing where there were those here beside me who stood just last year. That's my partner Gwendolyn that is sitting there. And we had a civil ceremony 12 years ago. However, we had to go to California that our union could be recognized. And these brothers and sisters stood with us as allies and said, not on our watch. We can have our religious opinions about what we do in our houses of worship, but as a citizen of this country and a citizen of the state of North Carolina, we pay our taxes and we have a right to the more than 1,600 benefits that come to every other couple that is married in this state. My NAACP stood up and fought against the powers that said, not here. They stood up, and Dr. Barber said, gave more than I did. They stood up, and it's my turn now. And I want to thank God so much for each of you. As we were leaving, I just have to tell you this as I take my seat. Every single thing you do is powerful. When we were leaving the detention center on last night, there were people who saw us, actually when we were getting on the bus to be taken to the center. They were standing there and cheering as we went. We were weary and exhausted. We had to get on with our hands bound. And if you can imagine how difficult even navigating that was with people who were 70 and 80. But something about those cheers, something about those eyes upon us where we knew every step along the way we were being cared for. So I ask that you not sit by, because while freedom is free, she ain't cheap. Amen. God bless you.
All right, let's give Leach a hand. see how hard-headed preachers is? Y'all know the Lord had a hard time with Moses and getting it in. You can't tell preachers what to do, they just won't do it. Now we have another young lady coming to you. She's a minister as well. This is Minister Debra Blackwood. And she's a very peculiar young lady. She's very unique. She's outlandish. God bless you. Come on, Debra.
My name is Debra Blackwood. I am a vocational deacon in the Episcopal Church in this diocese. And I had the distinct honor of being the chaplain at Trinity Episcopal School, which is right over there, when we outgrew St. Peter's and we're looking for a place to worship, and this house welcomed us. And I asked him to and I'm going to start this puppy, so it's going to count down my 3 minutes for me. Okay, so why is a 70-year-old white woman standing here having come out of jail last night?
Yeah, tell about it.
I grew up in West Virginia. I grew up in a relatively peaceful community that had interesting secrets. I grew up in a time when I knew, when I asked my mom and dad why Annie and Benny didn't have dinner with us, and they said they'd rather eat in the kitchen. And I knew my mom was full of it. Nobody would rather eat in our kitchen. It was tiny. But that's the way it was. And I looked back as we were meeting the last couple of weeks, and I was learning about this thing called ALEC, which is a pernicious infection. And one of the things I said to Rodney the other day was, I don't believe we let it happen. We thought, after all that we went through with the civil rights movement,
Go ahead.
and last night was not the first time I was arrested.
All right.
It's just been 40 some odd years since the last time. But after all of that fighting, we thought we had won. We thought that we had crossed those bridges. We thought that racism had, if not been eliminated, at least beaten into submission.
Yeah.
We thought. And watching what happened in the community in which I live, and in this town, as people talked about 2008 and then 2012 election, racism reared its ugly little head, and it came out of the closet a lot. And then, as I was looking at what since 1975, folks, the right wing has been planning and keeping the resources coming, funding, coaching, picking places where to buy legislatures. And this year, it was us. This year, they managed to capture not only the legislature, but the governor's mansion. One of the board members, former board members of ALEC, is now in charge of the budget for the state of North Carolina. And when I held up with a group of folks who are older than I am, that I work with every Tuesday morning at the brunch bunch at Holy Comforter Church, and I showed them the ALEC education narrative for education and the North Carolina legislation that is either in the works or been accepted, they are verbatim, word for word. I spent 55 years as an educator, a teacher, an administrator, a special ed coordinator, an advocate for kids, teaching everything from preschool to postgraduate work. What they are doing are trying to do to education in this state is horrendous. Last night, yesterday afternoon, when the gal I went with said, "I'm going in," and I went, "Oh, you're kidding." She said, "No, I'm going in." And I said, "Okay, I either have to sit here and wait until whatever hour in the morning you get out, or I gotta go in with you." So I went in. And two images I want to share with you, and I know I'm at the stop, so I'll just share one. As we were in the buses, and I was in bus 506, and we had the police things going whoop, 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 whoop in front of us, and whoop, 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 whoop behind us. The windows are open, and we're singing. We're singing This Little Light of Mine, and we couldn't put our hands up to do it. And we're in the mall, and we come, and the guys, including you, got taken off our bus. One of the women, who was in her 80s, had this grin on her face, and she very carefully just took her hands out of those cups. She said, "Oh, look, I got Mickey Mouse ears. Oh, I have a bow tie." And we're losing it. The women who are on the bus. And the door opens, so she very quietly just puts her hand out. And we walk out of the bus. The other incident was as we were going, and I was one of the last, I think, 6 or 8 people out. And as we were being shuffled from one place to another, there was a sergeant in charge of the detail that was moving us from fingerprinting and photo ID and into the magistrate's office. And my friend, who does not know a stranger, gave her a big hug. Because she's from Great Britain, and she had to go through the whole ISIS thing. And this sergeant helped. She gave her a hug and said, "Thank you." And the sergeant held her back and said, "Thank you for what you're doing."
That's right.
11 hours later, there was a state senator from Winston-Salem standing there, looking me eye to eye, saying, "Thank you." Find your legislature and write. If you can't go, support those who can. If you can go, you don't have to go to jail. You can stand outside there supporting those who go. We are all